All right, everybody. So we have Pascal Flor with us today. He is a coach with ReviveStronger. So welcome, Pascal.
Yeah, hello. Thanks for having me.
Yep. And for today, we're going to stick with Operation Smile for my donation. And so again, if you haven't seen the other interviews, that's an organization that helps children born with cleft lip and palate. So we'll get started. Pascal, can you just give us a little bit of background? So I think people who follow ReviveStronger know about you, but for those who maybe haven't seen that many interviews, can you just tell us how you got into lifting and how you got connected with Steve for ReviveStronger?
Sure thing. Before I start, a small disclaimer, I always tend to ramble a lot. And when it comes to my life and what I went through to get to the point where I'm at right now, it's been a while because I've been through so many different things until the point where I just realized, okay, is this really what I want to do? And it took me a lot of experimentation to get here. So I started lifting now 7 years ago, and it was just more so from a vain perspective because I was playing in a band and I was modeling. And because of that, you were always judged just by your looks and the appearance, right? And
Sure.
I just wanted to look better because when I was playing in a band, I was drinking a lot and taking a lot of drugs and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So my body composition was more so I was really skinny, but I was also pretty fat still. So
Nice
a
dad bod
typical,
going on.
yeah, totally, like a typical skinny fat physique, right? So um, when I was wearing clothes, people would never have expected that I actually got a decent amount of body fat. So there was a point in time where I wanted to change something about me when it comes to my physique, and I've always been like into sports, but when I moved to Berlin, so I'm right now living in Berlin, Germany, um, I kind of lost the ambitions to do something in the department of sport, and then after a while, I didn't really feel comfortable in my skin anymore, and didn't really like the way my body, and not just my body, but my life turned into. So I wanted to make a change. So I got into lifting, and when I do something, then I do it seriously. So I looked into a lot of stuff. That was the time when Martin Birkin brought out
Yeah.
all about lean gains and stuff like that. So I got into the lean gains kind of movement. So, and it all went from there. So I quickly delved into powerlifting because lean gains is all about, well, around the big heavy compound lifts, right? Keeping it really simple, squatting, deadlifting, chin-ups, benching, all that kind of stuff. And then I got introduced to powerlifting. And because of my competitive nature, it took off from there up until the point of 2016, where I was preparing myself for a powerlifting meet. And I always had like a pain, a twinging sensation in my left hip. So
Mm.
I was diagnosed with FAI, so femoral acetabular impingement, and I needed to undergo surgery because it had done a cartilage damage of the fourth degree, so already the most severe amount of cartilage damage. So I needed to undergo surgery, and it was clear to me that, okay, from that point on, I'm not doing powerlifting anymore. That was in 2016. During that time, I was already like coaching people, more so strength oriented, was participating at different conferences, and this is where I got to meet Steve, so my
Mm.
current business partner, ReviveStronger.
Remind me, have you competed in bodybuilding specifically?
I've tried last year, so I started my contest prep, but there was so much going on in my life that I needed to pull the plug. And my hip surgery was in December 2016, and I started my prep in March 2017. So it was way too early for my body to
Mm.
handle that kind of stress. And I was also visiting evening school because right now I'm doing my undergrad in life sciences. And this time I was still visiting evening school, was still working an office job while working for Revive Stronger. And with all that together, it was simply too much for my body to handle. And I was a little bit too stubborn because of my nature of competitiveness.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to push it to the limit. I thought I can handle the stress. And then in June, July last year, I simply needed to pull the plug because my body was just at a really bad point. And my hip was also flaring up. And for me, it was just like, okay, I don't want to undergo surgery another time only because I've been that stubborn. So I
Right.
rather now pull back so that I have a healthy hip for the next couple of, I don't know, hopefully for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But who knows? I'm predisposed to having a hip replacement at some point. But if I can avoid it and prevent it right now, I'd rather do so instead of being stubborn for only stepping on stage, right? So, yeah, but now it's the plan to compete in 2019. I'm right now doing the diet before the diet. So
Okay.
losing a little bit of body fat right now, then hovering around maintenance for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, so, and then I start the prep. But then I don't have as much fat to lose anymore, and I brought myself into a better position than the last prep I started 2017.
Right. And what's your current weight, and what are your goal kind of for your competition weight?
Sure. So right now I'm hovering around 84 kilograms, which is 184 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. Um, so the last time in 2017, my estimated stage weight would have been at around 69 kilograms. This year, hopefully, the off season was kind of successful, and I hope that I gain a little bit of more quality mass. And because I mean, I'm not genetically blessed with being the biggest guy. I'm
Yeah.
5'10", so 69 kilograms isn't that heavy for that height. So I really do hope that the off season was kind of successful and maybe in the ballpark of 72, 73 kilograms, somewhere around there. But I'm not entirely certain. And I just take it as it comes. And I mean, I just want to be ready and I want to be shredded to the teeth. And if that means that I have to get to 69 kilograms, I'm fine with that. Or if that three or so, then I'm fine with that as well. But I mean, right now with the cut, I'm actually planning to go down to 80 to 81 kilograms, and then I don't have that much to lose anymore.
Right. Right. And so is it kind of like Steve helps you prep and you help him prep? How does that work? Are you just kind of doing it on your own since you're a coach yourself?
So yeah, so I think the beauty about that is to have someone like Steve at your side, or to know the people in the industry that you always can consult with, smart individuals that you don't necessarily need a coach. I would love to have a coach. Don't think that I don't, because I see the benefits in having one, like checking in on a regular basis. But I've tried different coaches, and up until the point, I have not worked with one where I felt, I don't know, super comfortable. Now that's the wrong word, because I've been working with some coaches who are smart, who I respect, but they were simply not the right coach for me in that situation. It's
Hmm.
not that they weren't capable of helping me, but it was just like the relationship we had wasn't the necessary one to get me to the outcome, right? So I'm still looking for someone who is able to deal with me and who's able to help me, and also who I don't know, look up to as well. And it's really hard to come by. And that is, once again, not to sound disrespectful or to question the integrity or something from other coaches. It's just like I want someone at my side who I can really relate to, and who I can just open up in every single situation. And when it comes to Steve, he helps me massively, and it is the other way around as well. We are shit testing each other. We are also keeping each other on track and kind of accountable. So when we have like idiotic ideas coming up, then we always then remind ourselves like, okay, this is not the way to go about it. Or have we really considered it or thought through? And
Hmm.
so we are kind of coaches for each other, but I wouldn't really necessarily say that we are coaching each other, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Sure, sure. Yeah, it's tough, man, especially I think the more advanced you get, because like you said, it needs to be somebody you trust. And they actually say something similar with like people who see a therapist or anything like that, is
Yeah.
that like you need to find somebody smarter than you, because if they're
Yeah.
less intelligent than you, it's going to be hard for you to buy into it. And with training, it's so like for me, I've been doing it for 15 years, and it's very possible that somebody who's been like, doing it fewer years could really help me out. but there's just something mentally that, like, if it's not somebody I really look up to, who's, maybe bigger and stronger than me, which we know is like flawed because a lot of that is genetics, but it's still just kind of hard to really give in to that if you don't really have a lot of respect for the person.
Absolutely, and that is the problem. That it's not necessarily the coach who is the problem, but it's yourself. That
Yeah.
you are so much, I don't know, a little bit biased with your opinion and the way things should be because you know stuff, right? And then why the hell does he come along and tell you, okay, this is not how we do things. We need to do them X, Y, Z, right? And it's just, yeah, I know it myself that I'm probably the problem in that scenario, but it's also really hard to just step away from it and.
Yeah, for sure. So what is I mean, obviously you're a coach, but is your role almost identical to Steve's, or what is your specific role in Revive Stronger compared to Steve?
So we decided that we are business partners. So basically, we're doing everything kind of the same, especially when it comes to Sure, our way of programming differs slightly. The way we, I don't know, go about things when setting up a cut for a single individual, but this is always normal, right? But there are more things where we are doing things similar than different. And
Okay.
also how we run the business and stuff like that. So I would say that we are kind of on the same level, but of course he's the owner and he's the founder of Revive Stronger. But yeah, I would say that. I don't know if Steve has a different opinion on that. So
And as a coach, I mean, because I guess you've been coaching for a few years now, you said, right? What are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen as a coach, especially with online training?
building trust, I think. Because I think it's so easy to build a little bit more of a foundational trusting relationship when you know each other or you speak to someone face to face. And online, yes, our philosophy and the way we are dealing with our clients is still with video check-ins. So it's a little bit more personal. I would assume that instead of only writing emails,
Mm-hmm.
but checking in with each other is still you're talking to a camera and you are only seeing yourself when you record yourself, right? So there's still a gap in between, and you've never met each other in real life most of the time. Sometimes we do, like, I don't know, summer events or winter Christmas get-togethers where we meet our clients in person, but other than that, it's really hard then to build some trust, and I think that is the biggest challenge to overcome. And sometimes it works fine, but sometimes it simply doesn't work out. And dealing with that, because I got into that not because of the career, because of what I was working in before. So I was a retoucher, so in the media industry. So I was retouching pictures, and I was working for a agency that was pretty successful and well known in the world when it comes to automotive retouching, and I was doing career there, but um, it was just sucking the soul out of me, and I was
Yeah.
simply not enjoying that. And I got into that scene because of a hobby, but over time it just sucked the soul out of me. And then I changed path into the fitness industry, and I wasn't looking into actually making a lot of money or so, right? So the main driver was to interact with people and to help other people overcoming struggles. And when you can't build that personal relationship and you're really trying helping other people and it's simply not working for one or two individuals, and that is normal, right? You can't help and please everyone. This is basically life. But it is always a struggle for myself, and it's always the most challenging part to actually build that true personal relationship with each and everyone if you never see each other in real life.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the video calls have made it a lot more personalized. But I know back when I had an online trainer in high school, and it was just emails,
Yeah.
and so you don't see this person's face, you never talk to them, and it can kind of feel impersonal compared to actually having them in the gym with you. But I think the Skype calls and all that have helped a lot. But still, like you said, getting somebody to really like buy into it and trust that like what you're doing, even if they haven't met you or seen you in person and all that. So what do you think are the biggest or some of the biggest mistakes you've seen in your clients that you've had to correct? Either, I mean, it could be somebody new or even more advanced that they're still making a mistake.
Yeah, it's funny enough because Steve and I just recorded the latest episode for the Improvement Season podcast
Mhm.
2 days ago, and this is exactly what we were talking about, but more so specifically to contest prep. And while there are many, many things I can bring up, I think the biggest thing is to, or can I say more points than just one, maybe
Yeah,
two or
go for it.
three.
Rant as
I
much as you
think,
want.
yeah, I think one is definitely not trusting the coach, because yes, I'm only making estimations, I'm only giving out suggestions and stuff like that based on my experience and what I think might work well for the client. But questioning everything, I think. So let me just be clear. I think being skeptical about things is perfect and it's fine. You should challenge your coach. You should ask questions. If something is unclear to you, make sure you understand it and where the coach is coming from, right? But doubting your coach is something completely different, instead of being skeptical. And doubting your coach is just something where it's just like, okay, why did you come to us in the first place? Haven't you done your research? And because you did your research and you know us, what we stand for, what we are doing, and because you felt maybe that there's already some kind of connection going on, right? And every once in a while, you see it yourself that people come to you and they ask immediately just for the pricing. And most of the time, we turn those people down because
Mm.
we say, like, we don't want to work with you because you're asking around in the industry just for the pricing of the coach and you're picking the cheapest option, right? But we want to come to, or we want you to come to us because you trust us, you want to see results, and there's something going on before you're already applying to us, and you did your research, right? So having massive doubts into the way your coach is programming, the methodologies behind that. And I'm always trying to be really concise and make it clear to the client of what they have to do and why I'm programming the way I'm doing. And I want my clients to take more away from that. I want them to understand everything, basically, right? So this is a big mistake. And if that comes up, I think that communication is key. And this brings me to the next point: not communicating and not being honest and open with your coach. Your coach can only help you when you're honest with them and when you are really open with them. And I, a couple of weeks ago in the Improvement Season podcast as well, I said that the truth hurts for a couple of minutes, but a lie hurts maybe forever. Right? And it's the same principles here. When you are keeping things to yourself, the coach may make some adjustments or may not make them, because everything might go well on paper. And this is where it's so important then that you are communicating, because when you are suffering or when you are not enjoying the program, it's not sustainable. And the training and nutritional aspect, I think, should always enhance your life. It shouldn't really dictate it or take something away from your life quality. So this as well, and this is something I always make sure that every one of my clients understands that from the get-go, that I want them to be as open and honest with me as possible. Sure, it takes time to really fully open up, right? I'm not expecting that they share their hardest stories with me from the get-go, but over time, I want that there is a relationship where they have the feeling that they can fully trust me. And if both of the parties, so the coach and the client, aren't working on that or achieving that goal, I think something is wrong then with the relationship, and it's probably not the best then to keep working together. Last one, totally forgot about that one.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough to get that, that trust, but like you said, for them to really, like you said, you don't want them to blindly follow you, but if they're questioning every little thing, and I mean, like you said, there's some people who you just can't take on, or maybe even have to drop later on. I mean, I've had, I think just about a month ago, there was somebody I had to stop working with because literally, I mean, every single week when they would report what they did, it was different than what I had told them to do. And it's just like, well, I thought the workouts were too easy, so I added all this cardio and I added all this stuff, and it was just somebody who they just couldn't wrap their mind around just, steady progress over time. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we're just not a good fit if they're just going to go, they wanted to go 500 calories and 2-hour workouts a day, and it wasn't working. So
hey, and this brings actually up a really good point, and that is not doing what you're supposed to be doing and still expecting that the coach will fix everything and still get you to your goals. That's not how it works.
So you talked a little bit about you and Steve, you have similar approaches, but when it comes down to if somebody hires you or him, well, I guess first question would be, do they have that option? Because I know with some teams, they don't have the option to choose. It's kind of randomly assigned. So how do you guys go about that?
Yeah, we have no option in picking the coach you want, simply because Steve is much more present on IG and sharing much more of his life. People have the perception that they know Steve much better than they really do. And they think that Steve is the right one because they were watching Steve. But Steve has no idea about them and what they are going through and whether he is the perfect fit or not. That's why we always look at the application and then we decide who's best for the job, and also, of course, who has slots available, because that's not always the case as well, right? And based off of that, we are then picking let the coach actually get the client instead of let the client pick the coach.
Right. Yeah, which I think is probably the right way to go about it. Which, as somebody who's looked into coaching in the past, it can be frustrating as the client because you see, I want to work with this person, you know. 3DMJ is the same way, and so you might see Alberto Nunez, and you might think, I want to work with Alberto, but you don't really have that option, at least as far as I know, as far as how they do it currently. You just have to kind of whoever they can assign you to. But I think that's probably the best way to go about it. One, it's more fair to the coaches. Two, if you have a newer coach, of course, people aren't going to be as familiar with them, and so they're not going to get exposure, even if they're just as good of a coach. So I think that's probably a better way to do it.
And most of the time, so from my experience, no one ever complained afterwards with the coach they actually got. So because we are a coaching service, we are picking the coaches we take on quite specifically based on where we have the most crossovers in the methodologies and the way we actually program things. And sure, we have our differences, but it's like with our, I would now say, the evidence-based community. We always discuss and debate about the minor things, such as the 5% in which we differ or our opinions differ, but we never actually talk about the 95% we are actually having the similar approach or the similar opinions of, right? And it's the same when it comes to picking a coach. Yes, we are different personalities, and we have probably also a little bit of different kind of approaches to the way we are programming and we are coaching, but these are just minute details. And in the end, you're probably getting the same service from each and every coach.
And you guys are bringing on a third coach, or maybe you already have, right? Pretty soon.
We have, yeah.
You have
Miguel
already.
Blacude.
Okay, cool. When did he come on?
He came on, I think, already like 4 months ago or so.
Oh, really? Okay.
But he was writing his masters right now, so he was a little bit busy with that. That's why you didn't really see him on social media that much. But we had him already on our Proven Season podcast and our regular podcast, in which he talked about protein synthesis. And yeah, really knowledgeable guy. And he has a long way in front of him. I mean, career-wise, because he's such a smart individual. He knows much more stuff than Steve and I do. And he's young, right? Steve and I are already getting to the older end of them.
Yeah, it's weird now because I don't know how old you are. I think Steve's like late 20s, right?
Yeah, I'm 31 now.
31. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. We feel old being in our late 20s, early 30s.
I think it's just because of you seeing the young guys now coming in the industry, younger than ever, right? I have a client, Patrick. Shout out to Patrick if he listens to that. He is super young. He is already doing his bachelor's in exercise science. He is following us, following Renaissance Periodization, Team 3DMJ. And with his level of knowledge at the beginning of his 20s, it is just insane. Man, where he can get to when he's 30 years old, it's just insane to think about.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely great to get a good start. And I've seen a few of 3DMJ guys too. They're like, 18 to 22 years old, and they're already, winning shows. It's crazy.
Yeah, totally. And give them just a little bit of time, right? And let them mature as well, because I think that when it comes to everything in life, maturity is so important, especially like experiences in life, whether they are good, whether they are negative or something. They are just evolving you or develop you as a person. And especially when you are then collecting more and more experience, I think that, yeah, they have now the fundamental basis with the age of 20, and let them gain experience over the next 10 years, which is invaluable, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. So, I like to kind of end on an actionable step for people. And so let's say we have somebody like that who maybe they're 18, 19, 20, they're trying to get into this scene. What do you think would be a good step for them to take? Do you think they should look into a coach? Do you think they should develop themselves on their own for a few years? What's their next step?
Never really thought about that. So give me just a couple of seconds to really think
Sure, sure.
about it. So the first thoughts that came to my mind are, sure, getting a coach might be a really, really good thing to do because you're learning from a mentor, basically, right? But I also know that it might not be feasible for people at the age of 18 to 20 because it is a financial burden. It is a luxury for many people, unless you have been growing up in a family that is actually, I don't know, rich or have the money. But I myself, I was never growing up in such an environment, so I would have never been able to afford it at that age. So it would be nice. And I'm also saying that even though you might not have the money, investing into your future and investing into your education will only pay off in the long run. It is basically like, instead of putting your money into a bank and let it increase there, right, and saving it up, rather invest it into your education and gain more out of it in the future. It is like, yeah, investing in stocks, for example. You are hoping to get more out of it in the future. And I think that education might be the same way. So if by any chance you can get a coach, do that. Highly recommend it, because you will learn so much, and not just in the way of programming or nutritional aspects, but especially also for you personally. So this is at least our philosophy, that we want to get to know our clients. We want to help them in any way possible. Yes, we are not kind of psychologists or something like that, but we can actually give our input and share our experiences. And they don't have to do the same mistakes we've been doing over the past couple, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years now. They don't have to do the same mistakes. And by avoiding that, they can actually exceed us at some point. And I think that this is what human history was all about, right? You are, and also research, you are taking the current state of literature, and from there on, you are building up upon that. You're increasing the knowledge and the data gathered, instead of like starting from point zero once again, because
Hmm.
otherwise we would have never evolved to the human race we are nowadays, right? It is building upon what has been researched in the past, and that applies to, yeah, just personal experiences as well. And because of that, I think that a coach might be really worth investing into. And other than that, read read a lot, because that's nothing I did in the beginning. Yes, I read like articles on the website, right? But it's completely something else than reading textbooks about, for example, human anatomy or physiology in general, right? You are learning so much more once you understand how the body and the human body and or physiology works in general, and then from there on you can be more specific about the way you program things, because now you understand maybe biomechanics and stuff like that. This is nothing I did myself. I did it the other way around. Looked into articles, didn't really understand it. I just repeated what I read there, and then
Hmm.
out of curiosity, because I wanted to understand what was actually going on. I decided to now also start an undergrad in life sciences simply because I wanted to fully understand what is going on, and not just like theoretically that I heard it somewhere, right? And I picked it up at a specific in a specific article. I wanted to learn, like really learn about it, so that I can go out and actually give it to other people as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with all that. And like you said, even at 31, you're going and getting that degree, which I think is great, because there is a difference between just reading an article about something and actually going through the boring sometimes textbook. But
Yeah.
it's a great way to learn.
Just to add something on top
Oh,
of
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I've been coming from a music background, and so I was playing the bass guitar. My teacher always said that you need to understand the song to be able to play it. And it's the same when it comes to training and nutrition. You need to understand the person behind it to then program for them. And I think that you can delve so deep into the human body and human physiology. So there's always something you can learn, always. So just never stop learning, basically.
Awesome. So where can people find you? I know you're on Instagram, Pascal Flor. You're in the ReviveStronger group. We see you on YouTube. Anywhere else?
I mean, when people want to reach out to me via Facebook, that's absolutely fine as well. I have nothing to hide, as I already told you offline. So yeah, I'm always willing to have a little chat, help here and there. So yeah, but these are the common places where you can find me, like Instagram, Facebook, our ReviveStronger group, and yeah, every once in a while over on YouTube with our Improvement Season podcast. And Instagram, I'm not that active, but every once in a while I'm posting like idiotic stories there as well. I'm not that
Cool.
Instagram kind of type of
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, Steve's on it, I know, all the time.
Yeah,
24/7.
yeah, he's always complaining that I have to step up my Instagram game.
All right. Well, thanks again for talking, man.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate.